Be realistic is what we're saying. Don't live in a fantasy world. Be realistic. Don't get sold the okie doke.
That's all we're saying. Snow White syndrome. Women live in too much of a fantasy, and we're making choices based on a fantasy that doesn't even exist. And let me get a little deeper with this. If you think about it, the movies and TV shows and books and all of these things that have programmed women to think that this gonna end in some prince coming to save you and you're gonna get married and live happily ever after. That's not even based, and I'm talking about in our community, meaning the Black community. Those movies, books, and TV shows are mostly written by the dominant society. The template is not even based on the template of most of the men that you will encounter, which are our men, black men or whatever. That's not even the same template. So they're not even gonna have the same. They don't really have the same anything, the same culture, the same mentality, the same anything. They have a culture primarily that's based deeply in family roots. Let me give you an example. My doctor, not doctor's dad, he's an older guy. My doctor got to be, I don't know, 60 or in his 60s, not primary doctor. His dad started to practice. Now his son is in there. Now my doctor's son is in there. They have a culture of pouring into family and being really tight knit like that, where it's not that way. We got a whole culture of single family homes for whatever reason. That our men don't stay in the house with the kids. I don't know what that's about, but it's been going on for quite some time now. So that's a part of the reason we're, as women, trying to recreate this thing, because a lot of us never had it. You never had a man in the house. You probably know your dad. If you do, some people don't, and if you do, it ain't like they be checked in like that. For the most part, that's just the truth. I think it's getting better, a little bit better now in this generation. I will say this generation of men seem to be checking into their kids. To me, this is my perception, better than the last generation of men. I will give them that. But we have a long way to go, because it takes a lot, particularly for the boys. Boys really need their fathers. Boys need a male that they respect and admire to pour into them, to validate them. Because what you're seeing now, that's why you hear a lot of women complaining about, our black men acting like, little boys, or they ain't grown up, or, they're lost, whatever. That's because they didn't have anybody to validate them. That's very important. And it has to be a male figure. So they grow up and they look to other sources to try to figure out what a man is and how to, and where to go, and what that means. And unfortunately, they don't have a lot of good role models to choose from. So, they just kind of have to wade in the water. That's why, they have to wade in the water. That's why if you get with a lot of them, you have to, a lot of times, unfortunately, show them and teach them a lot of stuff, because they just don't know.
I agree with that. So Marcus in the chat is saying that he raised his young daughter by himself from the age of 4 years old. She's now second year in college. That's fantastic, Marcus. And I do see your post prior to that saying his comment was, after the milk is gone out of the mothers, dads who are in the house, most cases are in a better relationship with their children. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's not. But Marcus, the case is the fathers in the home with them, because it's fantastic that you are, but that's not the case a lot of times in the community.
Yeah.
So we understand what you're saying, and congratulations to you for sticking in there with your daughter, definitely, because a lot of fathers don't.
Absolutely.
Caesar is also saying that Walt Disney sold little girls a fantasy, love and hip hop, so grown women fantasies. You're right. It's going from Cinderella's story to love and hip hop in shows like that, because they do sell them a fantasy as well.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, that's what the media does. That's what the media is. It's up to us to know that it's just fantasy. It's just media. It's just movies.
Yeah, it's just movie.
It's not real life.
Love and hip hop lasts all of an hour. The show lasts an hour. They're not giving you everything that's happening in the show, but even within the show, you see that some of them relationships don't fall through.
Most of them.
You get to the next season and they with a whole nother chick.
And not only do they not fall through, the ones that do fall through, if you look at Love and Hip Hop, them girls done went through some shit with these men.
They have
babies, I mean, marriages ending once the babies came. I mean,
and we can really go from Love and Hip Hop to Married to Medicine to it's so many of them. It's so many of them. A lot of times it's the same stories over and over and over.
Yeah, and I don't want women to think just because you get in one relationship, and not saying that all relationships will end bad or it will be drama in our relationships, because that's not true. But I don't want women to think you're gonna go just because you get out of it one, he was the wrong one. Now you finna get in another one and it's finna be all gravy. No, everybody is healing. Most of us are broken.
To stop and self-reflect. So when you get out of the relationship, as opposed to looking at or saying to yourself that you chose the wrong one, ask yourself why you chose him, because keep in mind, you chose him too. He didn't put a gun to your head to make you be there, stay there, or have a kid. So ask yourself, why did I choose this type of situation? And start self-reflecting. Look at yourself and ask yourself, why did you draw in that type of individual? What are you trying to show yourself? What are you trying to teach yourself?
I said, what from this experience with this man, what was I trying to teach myself? What was I supposed to learn about me?
Exactly.
Because once you can really start seeing yourself in these relationships, you can really start evolving, and you can actually begin to make better choices. You can begin to make better choices, but we have got, as women, we have got to start looking at ourselves, man. We can't keep going, because what you're doing, you're just creating more baggage and creating more kids and then creating more depression.
That way.
Yeah, we got to stop and say, okay, why did I choose him? You know, why did I take certain things? What was I supposed to learn? You know, how can I improve? What won't I take anymore? Will I do better next time? Give yourself some time to heal and grow, because like I stated earlier, just looking at Kendra's show, a lot of the girls be fresh, they babies be fresh out of the vagina.
1 year, 2 years. I've seen 3 years old. I don't think I've seen from the ladies older than that on the shows that we've seen. And mind you, we haven't watched all of them, but we've watched enough. And I want to say, these ladies, 3 years old. Why are you even looking for another dude and you got a 3-year-old?
Like, girl. And then it'd be 2 and 3 and 4. Like, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get in another relationship with another dude, and that's just going to be the one. It's like, come, ladies, we've got, and again, we're being driven off the void. We're being driven off the need for male validation, particularly in the Black community, because Black women don't get the validation from men starting as little girls that other cultures of women get. Usually your daddy, that starts with your father. Most of fathers are not in the home. So when Black women grow up with this longing, this void and need for male validation, and it starts in your teens. This is why you see a lot of Black teenage girls get pregnant young. Mm-hmm. Because she instantly starts looking for the validation of men that she never had. She never seen it. So she thinks that this is what you're supposed to do, coupled with her fantasy, her fairy tale. So you got a combination of the fairy tale and the void. And you got, boom, teenage pregnancy. Women think, okay, he's my man. Let's, start a family. We're going to have a family, or at least if I have this baby, I can secure a baby mama position. You know what I mean? At least I can connect myself to him permanently. Not understanding that that's actually, a lot of times, it makes the situation with him worse. Now
so
you
what
got,
a hell. To
Now
what
you
avail?
got to
What are you
deal
trying to
with
get to?
him. What, 18 years?
Yeah.
18 years you're stuck to a
Mhm.
dude, which is
Exactly.
going to make it harder for you to not only move on to another one when the time is right, but to travel, to grow, to learn yourself. That's why it's important for us to have these conversations, because
Yes.
ultimately, definitely for the younger generation, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes a lot of us made. I don't want them to walk down that road. Unfortunately, kids, that's a permanent choice and it affects your life permanently.
It does. And it's also for the ladies that's in their 40s too, because by this time, some of them, the ones that have had their daughters young, they're coming up and they're in their early 20s. So give the information to them. Stop holding back information. Don't be like our mothers, because they wasn't filtering down any information at all.
I agree.
Give them the information. Let them know. Tell them what the experience really, really, truly is, what you went through, what your experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Give it to them all so that they can make a sound decision and make sure that they're making the best choices for their life.
Absolutely.